I've had that orientation, so it's not going to be anything very new for me. I've learned, I would say, from the best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen in your documents, and even you mentioned to us that you are the commission secretary. That's true? Of NGEC?
Yes, yes.
And even at Iebc. Where is that position of commission secretary? Where is it provided for? In the Constitution or even in NGEC Act or Iebc Act?
Yeah, the position is provided for in the NGC Act.
Commission secretary.
Commission secretary, yes.
Vis-a-vis secretary to the commission. The Constitution says there shall be a secretary to the commission.
Right.
But you've said you are the commission secretary. Are they one and the same? And if so, why did the Constitution and the Act talk of secretary to the commission and not commission secretary?
Yes, I think I will differentiate the two. The secretary to the commission is a role where you sit with the commission and execute the decisions, or rather the instructions that come from their plenary sittings. You also take minutes. You actually serve. You are a bridge between the commission and the staff, and therefore you hold an accountability and leadership role by so doing. So the Constitution, in the way it has drafted it, is to basically bestow on the office holder the issue of not only responsibility but also accountability, because it goes ahead again to speak to the issue of being an accounting officer in the enabling statutes that follow in the PFMA Act.
So does that change the position?
It doesn't change
because the Constitution says secretary to the commission, which you've actually described the role of a secretary to the commission.
Yeah.
But now I've seen all secretaries of the commissions have actually converted it, and they are calling themselves commission secretary, a position that is not there in the Constitution. It is not there in their enabling legislation. Yeah, and actually that partly contributes to the conflict between the CEOs and the commissioners and the chairperson of the commission, or the secretariat for that matter, vis-a-vis the role of commissioners and the chairperson. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I would say that in parlance, in terms of administratively handling that role, you find there is the way it's described: commission chairperson, commission secretary. So you find it's the way it has been described out of its administrative function that it carries. But indeed, I do agree with you about the phraseology in the Constitution. When they even put out advertisements, it's commission secretary. My letter of appointment says commission secretary. So I do see that. And in terms of the conflict, I wouldn't quite say that that is the reason why there's a conflict between commission secretary and the chairperson. I served as a commission.
But you see, the way you've described it, that it is called commission chairperson, meaning is overall, then you're commission secretary. So you're actually giving yourself powers almost the same to that of the chairperson, because you're uplifting yourself to that status that you're almost at par with the commission chairperson, only that yours is commission secretary, the other one is commission chairperson. But the Constitution says secretary to the commission. Thank you, Chair, and I wish you all the best.
Sorry, Chair, if you may just allow me to say something there, because it's a role I have held, and it's the way it's, I mean, the conversation we are having here in this dialogue, it's that it's something perhaps that may be addressed going forward. But in many circumstances, I haven't seen a conflict arising as a result of that nomenclature.
Thank you. I want to ask Mr. Evans Misati to ask you some questions.
Thank you, Chair. Let me also take this opportunity to ask Madam Petty a question. Now, Madam Petty,
Yes.
In the Commission discharging their roles, is the election date, setting of the election date, is it a role of the Commission or something that we have in our Constitution? the commission discharging
Yes.
the commission discharging their roles. Is the election date, setting of the election date, is it a role of the commission or something that we have in our constitution?
The election date is defined in the Constitution, and therefore the Commission takes up to pronounce that very date as per the day it falls in the calendar.
Thanks. So now, can you explain how the commissioners provide oversight without interfering with the secretariat? Given that now you have been in secretariat, and now if you find favor with this commission, you will be a commissioner. How will you do your oversight without interfering to the day-to-day of the secretariat?
Yeah, thanks very much. Through the chair, I think it would be very important to see to it that there is a charter that defines first and foremost the role of the secretariat and the role of the commissioners, so that the secretariat, together sitting with the commissioners, we have an appreciation of the distinction of the roles. Now, the secretariat has a role, Mr. Chairman, of executing the decisions of the commission. That is the role of the secretariat, to implement and to execute the decisions. Now, the commission then plays the role of oversight. It plays the role of making strategic policies. It makes the role of having the fiduciary duty of be calling upon itself that it owes Kenyans that duty to do goodwill, even within its role and within the provisions of the Constitution. The commissioners also have a role of providing evaluation, because they have to evaluate the CEO, they have to evaluate senior managers, just to be in tandem in terms of their performance with the mandate and the vision and mission of the commission. And at the same time also, it would be very critical for the commissioners to uphold any critical risk assessment, because elections is a very critical process that a risk definitely will arise here and there, either through late budgeting or through operational issues, and therefore just having a risk charter and having a framework that identifies how you're going to identify those risks. Are they high risk? Are they low? And how you're going to deal with them. And as well as the role of ensuring that we at that top level as commissioners are able to bring together stakeholders, so that stakeholders can already know who we are and how we can work together with them. Particularly this now becoming a new commission, stakeholders will want to know, what do they resonate with? Do they look at the vision the same way we look at it? So we can all have a same page reading. And as well as ensuring trainings happen from time to time, just to ensure that our secretariat is well facilitated, it's well trained, it's well empowered, and able to run its duties and execute as required.
Thanks so much, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Ms. Fatuma Saman to ask you some questions. Fatuma, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Sungura.
Yes, madam.
For stakeholder engagements to be said successful or effective, effective political participation through voting is usually attained. However, there are barriers to this. So what are some of the barriers that you can identify, and what strategies would you apply to overcome these barriers? Please tell that to the panel.
Yeah, thanks very much. Let me just understand your question. Barriers to voting?
Yes.
Okay. Barriers to voting. So one would be lack of sufficient voter education. The voter is the one who holds and casts the ballot. But if they do not know how to mark it right through effective voter education, then that again becomes a challenge. Secondly is the communication communication regarding the steps that the Commission is taking, just coming out transparently and saying every step within the election cycle and explaining exactly where and the stages at which it is, if it's technology, informing the stakeholders about the technology that has been procured in order for them to be conversant with it and how does it work. And as well as during voter registration as well, just ensuring that voters are aware of why they need to register and that it's not a difficult process, simplifying this process in order for them to get closer to the voter. And at the same time, just having transparency so that they can acquaint with what the Commission is doing and what the law is, so that there's no mystery around this conversation around elections.
But what I'm looking for is the voters are diversified and their interests are also, their levels are very different. You'll have Kenyan voters who are totally illiterate. There are those who come from far-flung areas. There are those that are maybe marginalized by either geographically or, are politically unconscious. So I'm looking for a set of strategies that can address each of these. This is what I'm calling the barriers.
Okay. All right. So let me just begin with the marginalized, because they're far-flung and many times they're actually out looking for pasture. In many of the I would say the northern areas and semi-arid areas. So if they do not have the voting mechanisms or the voter education reaching them, they will not be able to access voting. So the issue of them being far away does not mean that they cannot be accessed to vote. But therefore, it becomes a barrier in terms of perhaps the terrain or the distance. And therefore, they're not able to reach like the people in county halls and all that kind of arrangement. And therefore, that in itself becomes a barrier for them to access. So the Commission has to work around it and reach out to them and have mobile stations for voter education, for even voter registration, in order to reach out to them, because the barrier they have there is the geographical, right? Then language can also be a barrier, because you can have very complicated language in a material and people are not able to understand it, maybe the legalese and all that. So to make it simple, to just have very simple language, and then also to look at persons with disability and special interest groups, so that those who have audiovisual, how you're able to reach them and have devices and to have mechanisms that are actually crafted in order to reach out to everyone and no one is left behind. Also in terms of voting, for example, persons with disability, do the polling stations have a ramp? Because that again can be a barrier. Somebody's on a wheelchair, they cannot access because there's no ramp, or there's no sensitivity towards persons with disability. That again becomes a barrier, including the elderly. The elderly need to be taken slowly and to be reached out to, because also their vote counts. Their vote is also valid. So how can they be reached out? So to therefore address this is to craft the messaging, to craft the modalities in a way that you can reach those who are in far-flung areas, those who are even living in islands, that those who work and live in islands. How can we have voter education done in such, for example, such terrain, in order to access them?
Thank you very much. I ask Mr. Nicodemus Bore also to ask you some questions. Nicodemus, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Betty, you served in Iebc before.
Yes.
As a deputy CEO,
yes,
in charge of operations.
Operations, yes, Chairman.
Yes. In 1 minute, what does a person in charge of operation do, in charge of everything that happens during the election time?
Yes, yeah, very well. Yeah, through the chair, operations means you're in charge of voter education. You're in charge of communication in the aspect of voter education, stakeholder engagement as well. You're in charge of voter registration. You're in charge of on polling day, training the polling officials and working together with the support team to have them deployed to their various stations. And as well as in charge of the entire electoral process from voting all the way to even transmission. So you're really in charge of that electoral process from an operational perspective. Yes.
Okay, so you were in charge of elections in 2017?
Yes, in charge of operations, yes.
And that election was bungled. And Maraga, in his judgment, said Chiloba was not able to collect the Form 34As. He admitted that he was not able to collect a few of Form 34A. That's the reason why the election was annulled, one of the reasons. You are in charge of that process, of bringing back Form 34As. So were you the person who bungled the elections?
I wouldn't say I'm the one who bungled the elections, but I would explain it this way. Sorry, but it's the way you phrased it that makes me... in 2017, we had a new technology, KEMS, the integrated technology. And one of the things that happened then was the timing when this technology got to the field was into the election. This is a new technology. Staff need to be acquainted. Staff need to appreciate its functionality. And therefore, that also becomes a challenge when procurement and when we have delivery of strategic materials not arriving in time in order to facilitate elections. Indeed, in 2017, the issue here was the KIMS kit has a functionality where it can send the tally of Form 34A, and as well as it can send the image of the original Form 34A from the polling station. So both were being transmitted, both the image and the tally from the station. And the KIMS kit extrapolates and is able to aggregate the figure. So the Form 34As there was delay in their arrival at the National Tallying Center. And well, the commission, in its wisdom at that time, declared the results based on the tallied figures, which again coincided with the Form 34As. But again, like we know in the Maina Kiai ruling, it's the Form 34A, which then is the final result. Yes. So that function, if I may just say, is not active in the KIMS kit in order to just allow only the image of the Form 34A to be transmitted to both the portal and the tallying center.
Thank you. So you guys were part of the team that procured the BVR kit. Were you a member of that procurement committee? Of
the biometric BVR, that's in 2013.
2016, 2013?
Yeah, 2013, yeah, we had the BVR, yes.
You used the same BVR in 2017?
For voter registration.
Yeah.
Yes, for voter registration, we use the biometric voter registration devices in order to capture the details of the voters. Yes, indeed.
And there was a time your committee was invited in Parliament to answer questions on the opaqueness of the procurement process of BVR. And you are accused of being the chair of that committee at that particular moment. Is that true?
There wasn't, no, I'm not aware of that.
Not appear with the Orengo and Kiraitu Reforms Committee, Election Reforms Committee?
There was discussions around procurement for the elections technology. In fact, the procurement for elections technology did not even end up well with some of the staff in terms of even being investigated and matters going forward, which is actually within the public domain. Yes. So those who are culpable, the law was able to take its course.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Yes, Professor Adams, kindly.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Betty, I'll follow up from where panelist Bore has left, but take you back to Ambassador Koki's question, which you are not unable to answer because our time had elapsed. And first, let me say that your CV is rich, and you have been at the heart of running commissions, including Iebc, especially operations. And you had also talked of mistrust. And in answer to Ambassador Koki, you had started to say that we need to demystify the server. Can you continue? How do we demystify the server?
Yeah, thanks very much. I talked about the server because it's been an issue of contention in the presidential election. Severally, actually, you find the stakeholders coming forth and saying, they even say, fungua server. You know, we want to see what is in that server. What is it that we do not agree with that we want to confirm? And one of the issues here is to basically demystify it to Kenyans. And what I meant to answer at the time to Ambassador through the chair is this being the area of contention, actually not just the server itself, but result transmission. Is it possible for us to have a pathway? You know, so as a commission, then I'll be very interested for us to sit together as a collegiate and just demystify this pathway. So just the way Wanjiko, if I can just use that, Wanjiko can speak to the pathway of electoral transmission results, it's the same way Prof will speak to the pathway of transmission results. So there is a bit of mystery, and I think it's something that needs to be unpackaged through a lot of demonstrations, through a lot of physical meetings. Now we even have virtual meetings. We can have webinars where we demonstrate what it is. We can meet with the corporate sector. We can meet with the Mama Mboga. We can meet with students in colleges and universities and just demystify this. And above all, we can actually meet with those candidates who are contending for the positions, because those are really the ones who mainly, whose supporters mainly rally this call for this server must be opened. And I just want to say that in 2022, even from the monitoring that we did, the server through the portal was accessible to Kenyans. Indeed, that election progressively really was improved. And people would walk into the, or rather log into the portal and be able to see the various Form 34As. All of them were in that server, which is called the Iebc portal, and therefore making it very transparent. So you can go in, collect what you see in the server, and plus what your agents had in the stations, and indeed, they tally, and trust is restored.
I know you are not an IT expert, but what do you say to those IT experts who say the portal and the server are not one and the same? Because banks have servers, companies have servers, there's a way in which they go in those servers. What do you say to those who are saying that portal is not the same as the server, you having been an operations person?
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with them, because that portal is reflecting exactly what is in the server. The server being a sacrosanct device really is something that then is, I could say, protected in a way because of its sensitivity, but does not mean it's not accessible, right? But what is in that server and the portal, the results really read.
So why don't you just let them have see the server instead of the portal?
I would say this: the server being the physical device. Political parties have been accessed to it. Political party candidates as well have been accessed to it. And I think looking at the premium and value of this, what we call the server, and which I say here, is synonymous to what you have in the portal in terms of the result transmission. In the judgment, in the ruling of 2022, the Supreme Court pronounced itself to restricted access in order, again, the way it was phrased in the ruling, in order to not invite suspicion. Because everybody going in, there would be, again, a lot of suspicion which is being arisen.
If you leave the Supreme Court ruling aside, Betty Sungura, having said here that she wants the server demystified, can the Commission take a proactive role in its regulations? Because you said this server is sacrosanct.
Yes, it is.
But this server belongs to Kenyans who are voting. And in your own words, you said the challenge has always been that what was got at the polling station, is it really what is being verified?
Yes.
And the only gadget or instrument that can have a finality to it is the server. If political stakeholders came and say, as you have correctly said, that this is where our mistrust comes, would political stakeholders and the Iebc, before the election is conducted, agree on the modalities, the pathways of using the server as the verification tool for what came from the polling station?
Yes, I would agree with you, Professor, through the chair, that indeed having even a multi-stakeholder forum, including the candidates, including the register of political parties, where there could be a sitting, and not just one forum, but several, where people are able to go through what it is, what the server is, what the elections pathway, result transmission pathway, what are the new infusions, because technology keeps changing. And if, say, there is any new introduction into the technology that will be procured, if there is procurement, then can they all be on the same page? That would be very important. And because there's a lot of mistrust and demystification around this server issue, it will be very critical to even have it tied in law, in a regulation. The regulation here says that these people can sit at this time, just into the election, during the election, and even post-election, and be able to verify the results and the result transmission system through the server.
Thank you very much. My last question. Elections often attract political and public pressure. How will you ensure that your decisions are guided by the Constitution and not by political influence or personal bias?
First and foremost, it is true there is political pressure, having served in Iebc, but I want to say that one of the safeguards is to have the ethical leadership trainings given to the commissioners and even to the staff, as well as ascribing to the code of conduct and knowing that we are here to serve guided by the rule of law. And therefore, regular governance as well as ethical trainings, and as well as ascribing to charters which then dictate the independence that we should behold in order to deliver the mandate given unto us by the Constitution would be very, very critical.
Thank you, Chair.
Betty, a few questions from me. The easy one is your documents have demonstrate several names. Is there an indication why this is so? I didn't see a deed poll for it.
Yes, I have a deed poll and I will furnish it to the Secretariat. Thank you.
But it's not here.
No, but it can be furnished. I have it. The Gazette, I have it. I can furnish it to the Secretariat, bearing the names that I have used in this application, Betty Sungura.
Okay.
Yes, Chairman.
Invariably Kemunto and Nyabuto also.
Yes, Betty Sungura.
Okay.
Is in the deed poll.
In 2013, when did you join the Iebc Commission? Was it 2013 or before?
2012.
2012.
Yes.
So what was your role in the chicken gate matter?
I think the chicken gate happened in the IEC, if my memory serves me right. I joined the Iebc.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I think that train had already left the station.
To left the station.
Yeah.
And in the question that Bwana Bore asked about 2017 elections,
Yes.
what was your actual role in the annulment of the elections?
I would say the annulment, just to give a background, was based on the transmission. It's very important to base the annulment. The verification and declaration of results based on Form 34A is what ought to have happened.
Which you said that function was disabled.
Yes.
In the kits. Why was that function disabled?
It was disabled because the law is very clear that the polling station result is the final result in hard copy, Form 34A. That is the result. That is where Wanjiku has voted, and that's what needs to be collated, tallied, and declared.
But the law doesn't say you can't transmit that result using the kit.
It does not say you cannot transmit, but you need to transmit all of the Form 34As and have them in the portal, and then also verify with the hard copy that comes from the polling station, which then moves into Form 34B when the returning officers go to the National Tallying Center.
So as the officer in charge of operations, what was your omission or commission?
I would say elections is a very large project, and by, Mr. Chairman, our elections in Kenya have been progressively improving. So in that particular election, when it comes to the declaration, it is a commission decision, where the commission now, where the leadership of the commission sits together and are able to say we are going to declare. At that point in time, they declared based on what the tallies were, because the Form 34As, due to logistics, were taking long to get to the tallying center.
So the commission was involved because of the mistake of the secretariat?
I wouldn't say the commission made a mistake or before now the ruling, but what I can say here, Mr. Chairman, is that was a learning lesson, that no matter the pressure to declare results based on figure tallies, we must go, even if it will take another one more day within the time frame, let's have that one more day, but have all the physical Form 34As at the National Tallying Center for aggregation, collation, tallying, and declaration. So I think it was basically something where we can say we do not have to yield to any pressure or time, but just adhere to that rule of law.
So just in case you go through this interview, do you want to assure Kenyans that you will not repeat the same mistakes?
Yes, I want to take this opportunity to say that that will not recur, because we already have even the legal grounding and backing of what must be done and ought to be done. And I want to really commend the Secretariat, together with the commission that served then, that in 2022, there was really a great improvement, and there's no turning back. So it's to ensure that we have all the logistics together, Chairman. There are very many factors that help an election to move on. Inclusivity, ensuring that there is logistics put together. If this technology we are using currently, some turn out to be obsolete, the procurement of them needs to be very early, Chairman, in order for the staff to be acquainted and we don't go back to the same very cycle.
Okay, on your praise of 2022 conduct of elections, you praised the Secretariat. Professor Adams was trying to look for hair on his head to touch, but he didn't find. So I want to ask him to ask you some two questions.
Thank you, Chair. Betty, we've also seen that other than in commission work, you've already worked with FEDA, you've worked with GEC that you don't like, the pronouncement. So you're very familiar with the gender journey, women's journey. Who was the only lady in the Kenyan delegation to the Lancaster House Conference that ushered in Kenya's independence constitution? She was just one.
Could be Grace Ogot. Grace Ogot.
Okay. Let me give you another one. Who was the chair of the Interim Independent Boundary Review Commission? You remember there was the double IIEC, and there was the double IIBRC before they were merged together.
Yeah.
Who was the chair of the double IIBRC?
I only know the IIEC was Ahmediza Kassim, but not the IIEC.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Betty Sungura. We appreciate your time, your interaction, and we have learned a lot from you, and we want to wish you well. I want to ask if you have a question or a comment, please.
No, thank you very much, Chairman, and to the esteemed panel. Very grateful for this opportunity. Indeed, it was very intentional for me to apply, and I just want to say that you have conducted this interview in a very professional manner, and all the others. And I really want to wish you well as a panel, because you also have a very arduous task ahead of you to select the best to serve this country. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Feel free to pick your notebook. There's some water there if you like to take some. And you'll find a gentleman who has your certificates at the door. Blessings to you. And have a good day, and wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, may I ask the media team to give us some time, please? Thank you very much.
So in Namia had a grandmother.